Hey, everybody, welcome. Thank you so much for being here with us today. While everybody is filing in, we're going to go over some housekeeping rules, and we'd like to say thank you. Hi, and thank you to Rachel. Thank you so much for being here with us today.
You're so welcome.
This is a really special webinar. We're very excited about this. We don't get to do this very often. So today we're taking a look at the job search, specifically tailored to you, recruiters. We got a heart. So yeah, thank you so much for being in. We're excited to see what we learn. We're all going to pay big attention to it. Just so you know, we are taking questions. If you could drop those in the Q&A, that would be fantastic. It helps us keep track of everything. We will be watching the comments and we'll do our best to keep track of questions in the comments. But if you notice that your question hasn't been answered yet, throw it in the Q&A area and we'll see it. If you see someone else's question that you would like answered, there's a thumbs up option. So hit that thumbs up option and it'll move it up to the top of the list. Well, for our metaphorical list, we'll move it up in our heads. And you will receive a copy of this whole session along with the slide deck and some special follow-up information in about 2 business days. So keep an eye on your inbox. It'll be right there. Okay, I think people are still coming in, Rachel, but I'd like to go ahead and hand this over to you so you can introduce yourself more thoroughly and wow the audience, not woo them. We don't woo people on the Recruiting Daily webinars. Ashley has just not had enough coffee today, so, or
Oh,
maybe too much. Thank you, Rachel.
amazing. All right,
Hi,
let's
everybody.
do it. Okay, so we're just gonna dive straight in. Today's all about job search, what hits, what misses, and just giving you tips, ideas, frameworks to support you through your search. So quickly, I started out at Goldman Sachs. From there, I went to Bridgewater Associates. After that, I did some HR research at Aon Hewitt. I got coaching training and certified through NYU and then the ICF. I also did a tech MBA at NYU Stern. And I've done career coaching through a variety of organizations, as well as been building my own company now for over 6 years. So I've seen a lot of job search and a lot of patterns, a lot of challenges, and I want to deliver all those juicy insights to you. And we've supported a ton of different types of professionals. So this will be applicable even if you've been in different industries and whatnot, different locations, all that good stuff. Happy to talk about my background at any point later if you have questions, but I will breeze forward for now. So yeah, I jam-packed a lot in here today. We're going to talk about some career clarity, how to divide your time and set goals, setting strategic direction, a lot of networking, thinking about the funnel concept, accountability and organization, common pitfalls, and really make it interactive so you can actually apply all this throughout and really have those pivot moments so you can reflect and apply some changes to your own routine and literally thinking about what's working and what's not, what hits, what misses. And we'll have some polls throughout, which is a fun way to just apply the knowledge as well. Okay, so before you start your job search, and I know I say before, but even if you're job searching, this is a reminder that the exploration and the learning and the clarity as to where you want to go next is so underrated, right? So if you feel any lack of clarity at all, you want to do learning, you want to do reflection, and you want to compare and contrast your options, whether that relates to role title, type of industry, type of company, and type of environment. So making sure you are airtight on what's next for you. And if you're not, and if you have options, if you have open questions, doing some exploration, whether it's research and networking and reflection, to make sure you know where you're going and why. Sometimes in job search, we might be interested to make a change, and sometimes we want the same thing. And there's different schools of thought as to why we would go choose any one next step. But just giving yourself the time and the space, even if you need a little coaching, mentoring support, to ask yourself those questions, because your direction is just so underrated as an impact on your search and your efficiency and your success. Why is it such an impact, right? So number one is efficiency, right? So if you're exploring multiple different types of talent acquisition, if there's different varieties, different nuances, different types of roles or different types of industries, when there's more options, it can be overwhelming, it can be stressful, it can be confusing. And secondarily, it ties into the next point, which sometimes it makes it hard to interview because you've got different stories. So I think sometimes people conflate like, oh, if I have a narrow direction, is that going to rule out some options? Is it going to create less options? I always say, go try to find more volume of the right thing, right? So just because you have more directions doesn't necessarily mean more volume, right? So just having that focused direction, if your direction makes sense to you, it'll make more sense to your listener and your interviewer versus, sometimes we show up to interviews and prepare for what it is they're going to ask us versus proactively, which interview conversation should we go seek out, right? And be proactive with that. And of course, the other reason why we do all this is to increase job fulfillment. You want to make sure you're happy once you get the job. Obviously, if we need to move quickly, we're going to rely on a directional strategy where we're looking for similar things to what we had in the past. That's the fastest way to do it. But if you have any time on your side and if you have any need for that additional clarity, give yourself the benefit of the doubt and give yourself that time and space to explore and get your questions answered and just iron out what are my options and how do I prioritize those options. And there's a lot of reasons why you may want to prioritize one role or one industry over another. So getting deep, getting clear, getting narrow is super, super beneficial. Here's a great framework to think about your next work opportunity. And actually, the bonus to this framework is it's also great to reflect on past experiences as well. If you want to reflect on what did I like and what did I not like, and how do I want to translate that into future opportunities, this is a great, simple, but powerful way to do that. So the first thing is what I call function, which is essentially your day-to-day responsibilities, skills, projects. And a fun way that I like to break that down is sort of the pie chart of not just your day, but the pie chart of your week. So where does your time ideally go? And that's those active activities and skills and literally what are you doing day to day? The second piece is in content. So for example, recruiting, you may recruit different types of jobs, right? Different types of industries, maybe different level of leaders. Where do you apply that work, right? So there's a difference between the style of the work that you're doing versus where you apply that and, what industry or where does that activity get applied in terms of the nature of the content. And of course, the environment, right? Very different to be at a tiny little startup of 5 people versus being at an organization of 40,000. And, I do like to have variety in the size of organizations that you're targeting just to help your search. But it is good to think about where do you thrive and what makes sense for you. There's a lot of things to think about in terms of like who's hiring, diversifying your strategy, but also where do you thrive. But with environment, you also want to think about just the culture and the personality and the values and the people. Do you want to work remote or hybrid? Like all the bells and whistles of what does it look and feel like? So if you need a framework to reflect on past experiences and or to define what it is you want going forward, this is a great way to do it. And these are the terms, of course, that we usually use: role, industry, culture. But I like to just bring it back to the root and the principle, right? What is a role? It's the function of what you're doing day to day. What is the industry? It's the nature of the content of what we're talking about. And what is the culture? It's your environment, right? So it's a good reflective framework. And ideally, you can be crystal clear on each of these 3 buckets of what you want. Doesn't mean there's like a perfect job necessarily that's going to hit all your things, but it helps you know what you're striving for. It helps you target the right networking. It helps you target the right roles. And it helps you know when to say yes to that offer. Like, how does this stack up? You want to independently assess what it is that you want before the interviews are in front of your face. So it's going to be so much easier to know, like, am I settling or how does this stack up? Is this like a 5 out of 10 or an 8 out of 10? How does this align with what is it that I think that I want, right? So it's really, really helpful for so many reasons to clarify what you're looking for. Okay, so this is a quick process if you want to pursue more career path exploration, career clarity. Here's a quick process. I mean, quick is the operative word. I mean, it doesn't have to take forever, but I will explain it quickly. How about that? The first step is committing to the process. If you feel you need or want a little extra clarity, the first step is committing to knowing that that's part of your routine and part of your time and part of what's important to you. The second step is reflecting on who you are and what you're all about. And that would be in line with this framework. So reflecting functionally, what are you natural at, your affinities, what are you good at, what are you interested in, what do you want to do day to day? The second piece would be that industry, content, types of people you like to help, types of problems you like to solve, what sort of industry or sector most aligns, and then environment, what are you really looking for there? So you're reflecting on who you are. Then you're saying, okay, which role options or which industry options feel like relevant, viable options based on what I am all about. Of course, there's a little bit of online research we can do, but my favorite part is networking, chatting with people in the roles, in the teams, in the companies, in the industries that you're considering to get a deep learning of what those things are all about. And then some level of upskilling, experiential learning, right? If you're debating pursuing something new, you could get a little bit of that hands-on experience. And of course, reflection. So what I like to do is go through these like pivot loops, right? So if you do a lot of learning about certain roles and you're like, all right, this sounds great, this doesn't sound great, you're pivoting every single week to get closer and closer and closer to that confidence in what it is you want to do going forward. So there is an endpoint. There is a point where you say, I feel really certain, I feel excited, I feel ready, I feel clear. That's ideally when we start our job search. And by the way, that's also what would inform your personal branding. So, if you've got multiple versions of the resume, you might want to say, look, maybe I just need to understand which of these roles is the best fit for me. So taking a step back is going to help that personal branding. It's going to help the job search. It's going to help narrow in on the right opportunities and make your case and sell yourself for those opportunities. So how is your clarity, right? I think we have a quick poll, and I just want to, take a moment so that you can check in with yourself and see how you are doing. And Ashley, I don't know if I'm going to see the poll too.
I'm here. I'm so sorry the button was hidden, so I was fighting with it, but here we go. And
Cool.
there we are. This is a quiz, so there are 3 questions here. You might have to scroll down to see all of them, everybody. I maintain that we need some kind of game show music every time we launch a poll.
I know. I was thinking about that too in my head. I'm like, doo, doo, doo.
Usually we just make Brooke sing the Jeopardy music in the background, but I think she's on mute today. So
Amazing.
Yeah, nobody likes when I sing anyway.
I like when you sing. I think it's wonderful. Let's see here. We're getting lots of answers coming in.
Amazing.
And it's actually really interesting. They're pretty spread out, Rachel.
I can't wait. I hope it averages it up for me so I can analyze this in 20 seconds. Are we we're gonna see the results, Ashley? Or
yeah, we should. We don't use quizzes often. So I'm not sure if it will show it exactly like the poll does, but we'll do our best to get this up here.
Okay.
Okay, would you like me to, we're a minute 20 in. Would you like me to end it? Okay.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, here we go. We have the results. If you want to share them now, I already hit the button.
I don't know if I'm seeing results. I'm seeing the quiz again.
Okay, you should be able to see a percentage.
Yeah, no, polls, quizzes.
I also just see the quiz again.
Yeah.
Huh, okay. Show correct answers to all. Now do you see it?
Nope.
Okay, I'll get this information for you, Rachel.
Okay, we'll come back to this, but
Okay,
I'm so curious. Let me know, interrupt me when we have it, because that would be super interesting. All right, let's keep going in the essence of time. But, look, if you were, a 7 or above, great. Maybe you just have a few questions you need answers. If you were, between like a 4 and a 7, I would spend a week or a 2 week, just dive in, take a moment, take a pause, take a step back. If you were between like a 1 and a 3, I would really take, it could be 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks. It depends. Sometimes we can't afford that time. And sometimes we have to do it simultaneously with our job search. But depending how that quiz went for you, allow yourself that time, space, support, structure to do what you need to get those questions answered, because you deserve it. And it's going to be a game changer for your job search. It really, really, really will. It'll energize you a lot. Okay, let's keep going. So how should you divide your time amongst the variety of things that you can do in your job search? A good portion should be that exploration and learning and research, right? Like I like to tell people, imagine you're just in career development mode. Imagine you're in career advancement mode. We think of it job search. We have to get out there and apply to things, but what if you're learning? What if you're doing research? What if you're joining groups and communities and, you're getting involved and you're doing volunteering? Like, how can you learn more doing the networking, doing the research, and doing career exploration to learn about what's out there and where you want to be? You're having informational networking chats. You're having those mentor chats. You're learning, right? That's an element that's going to deepen relationships. It's going to be an authentic way to network, but it's also going to help you get your foot in the door. There's so many benefits to doing that learning and that research. Obviously, I'm alluding to networking. I usually say at least 50% of your time, depends how much time you're spending, but at least 50%, if not more. And that means finding the right people, reaching out to them, hosting informational chats, making it an authentic learning call, learn about their world, their team, their role, their path, their projects, strategies, pain points. What are they facing? What are they using? Tools, advancements. Ask good questions that you actually have on your mind. And that will inherently help show them who you are, what you're all about, and ideally identify some openings that they're going to put you forward for, etc. Job boards, maybe 10%, maybe 20% maximum. It is an unfortunate reality. And I know you guys have all seen the flip side of what this process looks like. But when I see clients and the success rates and where they're getting in interviews from, statistically, people land roles from networking. And so job boards are okay and they're fine. But just don't be on there all day, every day, and don't be sitting in your resume all day, every day, tailoring the materials. Skill development is a fun opportunity. You may meet other people by doing that. What's a new skill you want to grow, learn, and attain that will help your candidacy, keep you fresh, keep you on top of things? AI is a whole new world these days. Maybe there's new skills that you can learn. Reflection and iteration. Treat this like any experiment. Imagine you were at work and you were doing some sort of experiment of like some new process. At least once a week or even once a day, have a pivot moment and ask yourself what's going well and what's not, and be really holistic. You might be tired. You might need more exercise. You might need more sleep. Be really open-minded to say, what do I need more of? Where do I need support? What pivot can I make? What can I do better and differently tomorrow? And be as open-minded, open-ended as you can with yourself. Self-care is a huge part of it. And this is super high level. Obviously, there's a few other creative things like joining groups, joining communities, joining events, things like that, getting yourself out there. But this is like super, super high level. And the key behind this, by the way, is if you're not already, like, proactively protect your time and do time blocking on a calendar, because otherwise it's just too easy to fall into like randomness of, what do I think I should be doing? And then we fall into the online job applications. Like, be intentional with yourself every day and every week. Where's my time going to go? And plan that out visually somewhere, because that act is going to really help you choose what to be doing. This is another table of like how I usually view things. You've got networking outreach versus networking calls. What's great about that is if you're doing outreach and not getting calls, you'll know, all right, I need to spruce up either like who I'm reaching out to or the phrasing of my outreach or where I'm messaging them. You're going to diagnose how it's going. If you're having calls but no interviews, maybe are you really asking for that follow-up? Are you directly asking whether there's open roles? So it's all a funnel, but you really want to quantify your goals and how you're doing against those goals. Are you having the informational calls? Ideally, the more calls you can have, the better. If you're not working, like, I would love to see at least one call a day would be amazing, but you may have time for more. I usually 2x or 3x the number of outreach to call ratio. Not everyone answers. You have to follow up, etc. But there is a portion of people very willing and very interested to support you and hop on the phone for 20 minutes. online applications, joining events, joining groups and communities, research, upskilling, thought leadership, personal branding. So with personal branding, I like to do like a once a week check-in, periodically, incrementally improve your materials rather than like sitting in your resume all day. If you're sitting in your resume all day, no one's meeting you. So you really need to be front facing, people to people, right? So just, I like the periodic check-in of the resume where you can strengthen it. And same with LinkedIn profile optimization. Thought leadership is also fun. Write a blog, create a video. Like, how can you stay active in the conversation with your expertise and get out there? And I've heard of people meeting hiring managers through a LinkedIn conversation. Like, just again, what would you do if you were in career advancement mode, career development mode? You'd want to have a voice and be part of that conversation. Okay, I think we have a quick poll. And I want to see, like, reflect, where are you spending your time and where do you want to spend more time? So we've got a 2-question poll for you.
Yes, and Rachel, I added the results for the
Cool.
last one to the very last slide of your deck, and I'll do the same thing with this one since we can't seem to see the quiz answers. I'll do the same thing.
Cool. For the sake of time, I'm going to keep going, and I'm just going to make sure that the polls are helping everybody to take that quick moment of reflection, but we can see if we have time at the end to analyze it deeper.
Perfect.
All right, so where are you spending most of your time and where do you want to spend more of your time? We'll give you guys a minute on this quick poll here.
We're getting a lot of online applications and researching for that first question.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, I mean, researching is good, but again, balance. Maybe 30 minutes a day can be research. What I imagine you mean by research, by the way, is finding the online roles to apply to. Research can be learning about roles, learning about companies that you didn't know existed, learning about industries, exploration. Even networking is a form of research, learning about your direction, meeting people, understanding what's going on out there in the world. You know, if we're doing a lot of online apps, ask yourself, are you seeing the traction? Are you seeing responses from those online apps? I hope so. But sometimes, oftentimes, it is not always the case. So just remember to find that balance. Ashley, any anecdotal from number 2 of what people are picking there?
Yes, absolutely. It is 51% networking. And then we've got some upskilling and some personal branding and a few yeses for the others, but definitely big lean towards networking.
And this is what I predicted. I might have led you guys into this, and but that's okay. Some people are nervous with networking. We're going to talk about it, but it's worth it to get comfortable and figure out how and why and what you would do with networking. It is absolutely worth it to do it. Okay. So, all right, setting a strategy. What I mean by this is you should have like a 1-pager that is your direction. What are the role titles that make sense for you? Whether it's function, level, salary is always a consideration. What's commensurate? What makes sense? Be wary of too much variety there. And of course, target organizations. What industries are you targeting? What size organization, remote, hybrid, in person? Even thinking about what teams are located where. So I was just networking with somebody at Netflix and the talent team was located in mostly California. So it's like, even nuances like where are the teams, even if it's an international organization, where is the talent team located? Things like that, and you'd be surprised, even for remote companies, being within an hour of an office sometimes is still very much a real thing. And I like to have about 10 target organizations on my radar at any given time, because that's a nice number where you can say, I want to network with one person at each of these 10 organizations. You're intentional about which org is a fit for me. You try to get your foot in the door. And if they don't have an open role, you add one more to the list. And that way you have a balanced, focused, you don't need hundreds on the list because that would be impossible for you to do hundreds of things at once anyway. Cool. Directional strategy, 1-pager. Where are you going? Does it make sense? Are you seeing too much variety? And the beauty of having that 1-pager is you may realize, what, this role title doesn't make sense for me. This industry doesn't make sense for me. Let me refine it. So it's always fluid. You can come back to it. You can edit it. Your networking will inform your strategy to make sure the direction makes sense. Okay. I know I'm going fast, but I have a lot here and I want to make sure we get to it. So hopefully I'm not going too fast. Job search approaches. Okay. there's a few main ways to do it, right? Obviously, you can apply online and then you could try to network to get your foot in the door. The other thing is basically what I just said, which is target companies and then try to network your way in. Strategy 3 is just networking with professionals who are in a relevant field to you, whether it's relevant role or relevant industry. You'd be surprised who your network may be able to introduce you to. So you could be unassuming and say to your neighbor, your acquaintance, your doctor, your friend, who do you know? Here's where I'm at. You have to be honest with people. I literally had a chiropractor once introduce me to one of her clients at like Blackstone, BlackRock, I can't remember which one, started interviewing there. You never know. I saw an article about how jobs really usually come from these loose, warm acquaintance connections, right? So it can seem indirect, it can seem unobvious, but try that variety of approaches because you never know where it's going to come from. So just remember, it's not only apply and then network your way in, because what are the odds you're going to know someone at the company you're applying to? Plus, there's a lot of unposted open roles, right? We've all heard about that hidden job market. So a variety of like, what are the directions? What are the inroads? How can I get different things going, right? Not just that one singular thing. And by the way, it gets monotonous to do that. So, challenge yourself to be creative. What are the different avenues in, right? Get creative with it, okay? The goals of networking. Number 1 is to learn more about your target roles, target industry, target company. Who are they hiring? What are they looking for? And how can you better brand yourself, etc.? And which direction makes the most sense for you? Job search, obviously, it's going to help you identify openings, right? And by the way, like sometimes it makes sense to go after the same exact role, but sometimes there's a slight pivot where like maybe some other talent team could benefit from the fact that you have talent acquisition, but they're working on something a little different, internal mobility or outplacement or talent development or performance management. I mean, sometimes those pivots make sense, sometimes they don't, but like, what strategy do you want to pursue, right? Who are they looking at? Well, how can I better position myself? What makes sense for me? All of this learning and reflection. And again, these mentor-oriented informational chats, you're getting your foot in the door. You're introducing yourself. By way of your questions, you're going to showcase your skills and your value and your knowledge by way of like, you're having a conversation as if it's with a colleague, right? You're going to like, imagine you're at a conference chatting with the person next to you. What would you talk about? Make it like a real questions that you have about the industry and technology and tools and like, what is it you want to know, right? And that's gonna show them what you're all about. And networking has other benefits, right? If you're debating upskilling opportunities, you can get opinions on that. You can get feedback on your branding, building relationships, helping people advocate for you. There's so many benefits and resource suggestions, like learning about groups. And of course, you can always offer your help to them. There's so many benefits to having these networking calls. I will keep going for now, but hopefully you get my point. Okay. Who can you reach out to? Don't forget about your network's network. We often assume that we know who people know. Your friends, your family, your acquaintances, past colleagues, any organization you're a part of, the gym, a religious group, whatever it is, a wine club, where do you go? A book club, literally, where do you go? Who do you know? And be unassuming of who they may know. And you do have to send a formal email, even if it's like a personal connection. Send an email during their workday because that is where people expect to get communications. If you send them a text, it's going to be hard for them to loop you in with their person. But if you email them, you're going to say like, would love to see who you know in these different types of roles or teams or industries. Sometimes people say, look at my LinkedIn, let me know what intros you want. But other times you can say, do you happen to know anybody, and let them tell you what their great connections are for you. Alumni is amazing. If you attended an undergrad or grad degree, it doesn't even have to be graduate, it could be an undergrad degree. Go find your alumni network on LinkedIn. You have something in common. If you went to the same alma mater, it makes people want to help you, right? You've got something in common. You're in the same field. You went to the same alma mater. Amazing. Ask them for 20 minutes. Make sure your messaging is all about learning and exploration. I personally don't like to mention job search in my message at all. Try to keep the call to be valuable about learning, even if there's not an open role, because worst case scenario, even if they don't have an open role, maybe they'd be really willing to introduce you to someone else. So make it authentic. Your outreach message, your intention, and your goal is still authentically learning. And then in an ideal world, maybe there's some next step that can come from it, right? So be open-minded, be creative, And even if you're in a social setting on a Friday night and you don't want to talk about your job search and somebody brings it up, just get their card or get their information, write it down and follow up with them on Monday. You don't have to talk about it all day, every day if you're at a party, but like, again, you never know where it's going to come from. It comes out of left field usually. Okay. Compelling outreach. Email is better than LinkedIn Messenger. Try to find people's contact information. Of course, for emails, be clear, but just like spending 10, 15, 20 minutes on an email, like you don't need more than that, but that's so much better than spending 2 minutes, 5 minutes. Like your email is going to be so much more like resonating with the listener if you can actually just be a little thorough, be specific, be authentic. What is it you want to learn from them about? Look at their profile, give them a mini little agenda. I'd love to learn from you about A, B, C, and D, whatever it is, right? So either you're asking somebody for intros or you're asking somebody for an informational chat. You want to be doing a little bit of both. Okay, I'm gonna try to go quickly. I know we have a lot more to do. When you're running this informational call, let them know you have an agenda. Like partially you want to be fluid and see where the call just goes, but go in with your questions. Let them know you've prepared. And just leverage their vantage point, right? It might not just be about their day-to-day. What about the rest of their team or their department, or maybe they use some vendor or agency, or what is in their purview that you can understand. And if you sort of are honest on this call, it's going to be like you partner together on this journey during the call. And it's going to be obvious by the end of the call, what next step makes sense. They're going to be like, I should introduce you to this person, because you would have told them all about you and your skills and your strengths and your interests and all this great stuff. It's partially asking them things. And then you're like, sort of reacting to chime in a little bit as well. So you're not just telling them about you, it's a bit of both, but you're being honest so that they know how to help you by the end. Always follow up after the call with a thank you and whatever else they offered to do. And just be creative with your questions, like genuinely take 20 minutes to prepare. When you ask really thoughtful questions, like, you know, it's not just what's your path, like really sit there and be like, what is it I could learn? What is it I want to know? What is it I need to know about that person, their role, their team, their company, their industry, or just this role at large and how things are changing, what they look for. By the way, on my website, I have a free downloadable list of 50 networking questions that you can ask, but just be thoughtful and prepare and think about what would be a great question that you could ask. Learning about patterns, who gets hired, what are they really valuing in resumes, what are they looking for? And of course, yeah, you're mostly learning. And at the end, that's when you can sort of wrap up and mention what you're looking for, et cetera, et cetera. And you just want always that one call to lead to another call. I'll keep going for now. I know that's a lot. All right. So reflect, measure, and iterate. So this could be a once a day, this could be a once a week exercise. So there's a few moments of reflection, right? So after every networking call, how'd it go? What was interesting? What wasn't interesting? How interested are you in that role or other roles? What are the next steps on your mind? Does that inform your strategy or your direction at all? And then on a weekly basis, what went well, what didn't go well, what did you learn, ranking your options for roles, and how can you improve your process? That's the qualitative. Then there's the quantitative. And we're going to talk about the funnel. But if you're sending outreach and not getting responses, or if you're having calls but no interviews, or if you're getting interviews but no offers, that's going to help you diagnose what's going on, if there's any patterns, and what to do about it and where you need support. Cool? I know I'm going fast. Okay, job funnel. So I've mentioned this a few times, but think of it like marketing or sales or whatever, right? Top of funnel. How do you get your foot in the door? Are you landing the first round interviews? If not, we need to be meeting more people. If you're not moving from first round to second round or second round to third round, usually it's a matter of doing more mock interview practice, or sometimes it's like different reasons at different companies. Like one, they chose someone internal, one could have been a culture fit problem. There's any number of, sometimes there's just varied reasons, and sometimes there's patterns. But if you're having interviews and no offers, it could be, is it the right fit role? Is it the right fit industry? Or do you just need mock interview support to practice how you're communicating what you're all about? Again, even though you're all in the talent acquisition space, practice how you communicate. How are you coming across? Are you being clear? Are you talking too much, too little? How's the energy? How's the tone? Are you getting those transferable skills across? Are you being specific? It's not easy to tell stories about projects and whatnot and talk about yourself. So have another pair of eyes and ears, practice out loud, but also see if you can practice with someone else. And this is the great group where you can actually practice with each other, right? Or of course, finding career coach, mentor, peer, whoever it may be. Okay. Which part of the funnel do you need the most support with? I think we have a poll, which is fun. So let's do a moment of reflection. Where are you seeing a challenge in your own funnel? And what's going on for you? If there's any pattern, and I guess we didn't give that option for other, but try to guesstimate what is the biggest issue that you think you're facing, or biggest challenge.
Hey, Rachel.
Yes.
I just wanted to let you know that we do have 4 questions
Cool.
and I think all of them are questions we can hold to the end,
Okay.
but just letting you know they're there.
Okay. I do see them. Let's do that. Let's hold them. And hopefully I'm making my way through the slides, and then we will do all the Q&A. So stick around and you can get all of your questions answered. And
Fantastic.
how is that poll looking, Ashley?
We still have people answering, but I think we're just about ready to end it. Would you like me to show the results?
Yeah, or just anecdotally. I like when you just summarize.
Okay.
It's helpful.
Well, it looks like we have, it's kind of funny, it goes in tiers. Landing first rounds comes in at 56%. So that's obviously, that's our big one. But there are quite a few answers for the other 2 options as well.
Yeah. Oh, I see it now. Okay. Got it. Yeah. First rounds. So what does that mean, everybody? Top of funnel. Who's going to hire you? A person, not a computer. So this is the thing. Talent acquisition professionals, you're used to looking at the other end, screening resumes. We can recognize that someone else is doing that, but I'm telling you from a perspective of like, I have been in this world for years now, helping candidates navigate a difficult process. So getting out of your own rhythm of what did this look like for you when you were in that other seat and other side as a candidate, there's a different way to get the foot in the door, right? How do we get that foot in the door? Landing informational networking calls. Okay, beautiful. Okay, accountability. Setting goals is huge. If we don't set the goals, we don't know like what we're doing and we don't know where to adjust, right? If you set goals, you're going to ask yourself, how much networking should I do? You're at least going to ask yourself that question and then set a goal, and then maybe you'll meet it, and then you'll maybe adjust the goal. Maybe you'll increase the goal, right? So it's going to drive so much improvement in your process. Leverage co-working. I love co-working. I'll try to dig up, I have a few referral links, but FocusMate and Flown are 2 great tools that I love. Time boxing, right? So it's not just setting goals, but how much time should you devote? If you protect 2 hours for networking, what are you going to do? You're going to research profiles, you're going to draft outreach, you're going to find introductions, you're going to look at alumni, and eventually you're going to host those calls. If you have 2 calls on your schedule, that's already taking up an hour plus more for prep and follow-up. It's easy to fill up that time when you just give yourself the time and then you say, what am I going to do with all that time, right? Finding internal self-motivation. So give yourself some post-its, right? What interests you professionally, or what's motivating you personally? What's going to help you remember more of the positive elements versus I need a job, versus what do you want professionally? Make it positive, make it exciting, make it all about your developmental goals. And yeah, let those interests drive your effort. Like, as you can imagine, and you can hear from me, I'm like screaming. I love helping people with career stuff. And so what is it you enjoy doing? And just like, let that drive you, like come from a place where you're actually hopefully genuinely tapping into professional interest. That's going to come across so much more energizing in your networking calls versus like, yes, I need a job, check the box, but like, there's more to it. Every role has like a real purpose and a real impact, right? So like, let that stuff drive you. And then just get other people around you, get that support, peer, mentor, coach, whoever it is. If you're in it alone, it doesn't feel nearly as good, right? So help yourself make it feel more manageable, feel more fun, and other people can really help in that process. These are just top 3 strategies that I see. You could either think of them as the common pitfalls or the top 3 strategies, but really thinking about, are you being transactional, or are you thinking about like, who would I enjoy talking to and about what? So an interview and a networking call are mirrors into the work, right? So really think about the root of like, what is this really? Versus like, I'm doing the motions, right? And again, plugging away heads down with like, my day and my routine, where your time is going, versus like take a step back and be like, how much time have I been spending doing A, B, C, and D? And is that working? Like, imagine you're at work. If you were spending time doing something that wasn't working, what are the goals? What are the KPIs? What would you do? You would adjust. Same thing, right? You're going to adjust. And then of course, directionality. If you have too many options on your radar, right? How is that serving you? Is that serving you? Can you take a step back? Can you clarify that direction in a way that makes more sense? Cool. I do think we have a poll, a final poll, to help you reflect on any key changes that you want to make going forward in your job search. So take maybe a minute or 90 seconds or 2 minutes just to think of some tactical next steps that you can actually implement going forward.
I'm actually, this is weird, Rachel. I'm seeing that it didn't, let me just double check something real quick.
I see the poll popped up for me.
Okay, great.
Yeah. Although I don't know, there's no like submit button.
There should be. I'll just end this because I'm
Okay.
only seeing one option and all of them were added. So let me just double check that. I might have to re-add that. There might have been a
Okay.
hiccup in
All
Zoom.
good. Well, anyway, what I would love for you listeners to do, jot down on a piece of paper, or you could type in, I don't know if we have the chat open, type in the chat, or you could just jot down your thoughts, and just make sure you jot down like 1 or 2 or 3 actual next steps that are going to help you move forward. What's something a little better, a little new, a little different than you've been doing, given some of the things that we are chatting about. So give yourself a moment to jot that down. Wherever you jot it down would be wonderful. And just so you know, this is what we do here at Woken, is we support folks through all of these different things. And we'll make sure, like Ashley said, that we send out all of our information so you can get in touch with us. And I think I can just message in our group here just so you have our website. And now I think we can leverage our 15 minutes for Q&A. I want to leave as much time as I can. So I am going to get started and try to answer. Thank you for everybody in the chat. Yeah, doing a better job networking. I love that. Great, Stephanie. I'm so glad. And I'm going to just dive into that Q&A section. So if you guys do have questions, please submit. We've got 15 minutes and I'm happy to answer. So I'm just going to start reading some of these questions. All right. So one person mentioned, how do you begin to network? I'm an introvert and it's not easy to know where to start a conversation. So I actually have a blog which shows how to network for introverts. I think for introverts, and I'm an introvert actually deep down, even though I'm out here screaming. But make it a process. Make it simple for yourself. Make it in a way that's comfortable, right? So like step 1, what do you want to learn about? Who are the right people where you can find some of those intros, right? Draft an email. You don't even have to send the email just yet. Send the email maybe to a peer or a mentor to look over, but just draft it and then see if somebody can help you edit that email. And then eventually you'll get more comfortable to send it. But like understanding your goals. What am I asking them for? What am I hoping from this person? What am I hoping from this networking call? Drafting the email is going to beg those questions and help you come up with, what am I hoping to do with this? Then on my website, I also do have a free, like, how would you prepare for a call? You're going to give yourself at least 20 minutes to look up their background and their website and think about their company's website and think about a few questions to ask. So you're going to prepare and you're going to let them know that you have that agenda. So I realize I'm talking a little vague and we can talk more example specific questions. But download either the list on my website that's free, or you could use online resources and you can Google and you can ask ChatGPT, what are some things I could ask XYZ professional? But really, I want you to reflect a little bit. Like imagine you're at a conference chatting with a colleague. What is it you'd love to know if you were trying to learn about someone else's role or team or whatever it is that could be interesting to you? And by the way, here, so I'll show you if you go to this page, you should be able to go to the downloadables and you'll be able to find those list of questions. And so back to the question, if you're at a conference, right, what do you want to learn about? And networking, by the way, it gives you that inside view. So maybe their company culture is somewhere you don't want to work, or maybe it is where you want to work. What genuinely would you like to know about how their team operates, strategies, pain points, what they're working on, etc., right? Make it authentic, right? So that's a good place to start. Those are some of my initial thoughts. And for an introvert, you can do this on the phone. You don't have to do video and you don't have to do it in person, right? So I hope that makes sense. Let me know if you have follow-ups. And I'm trying to also monitor the chat a bit. So let me know if I'm missing anything. Let's see. I see a question. What if you were trying to even figure out what you want to do beyond degree in terms of jobs? Are there credible apps or tests to figure this out beyond Myers-Briggs? So I have my own assessment and I have my own process, but the reason I outline that slide with the process for you is because oftentimes when you take a career assessment, it's hard when they spit out the answers. It may not be right. And so the way that I think about career exploration is you might take an assessment, but then you have to continue. So you may have a few role options, a few industry options, and then you want to do research and you want to network with people in those roles, in those industries, and reflect and pivot based on what you're hearing. So there's a process. It doesn't have to take forever. It could take a few weeks. It depends how much time you put in, but it's more than just an assessment. You want to continue that process to learn and reflect until you feel clear. That's what career exploration is all about. So I do have my own assessment. There's obviously a bunch of assessments on the market, so you can Google and try to find some of those different tools. But just know that after the career assessment, come up with some of those options and learn deeply. What happens when you start to learn is you may learn about new role titles that you didn't even know about. So the process, if done right, is self-correcting, and you just want to follow the trail and follow the journey and follow the breadcrumbs, and it will lead you to that end result of certainty if you approach it in the right way. And it does help to have another pair of eyes and ears. So what I do, say you had a mentor or somebody, say you're doing networking, you come to a conversation with a coach and you say, here's what I'm learning, here's what I'm feeling, here's what I like, here's what I don't like. So you have to synthesize everything you're hearing and feeling and let that inform your next steps. If you keep doing that, you will get to the point of knowing what it is you want to do with your direction. I hope that makes sense. Let me know if there's any follow-ups to that. Okay, let's see. We've got some more questions. How do you determine what else you can do outside of recruiting within HR? I keep researching and coming back to I'm only good at recruiting. So again, networking, right? So it's a combination of yes, you want to know yourself and your interests and your transferable skills, and you want to reflect on that. But really, it's okay to toss up some ideas for right now. What else in HR intrigues you? Trust your exposure. You worked in recruiting, but who else was in the department of your previous company? What other HR functions are out there? And it's okay to throw, some darts at the wall or whatever the phrase is, and just say, oh, let me chat with somebody in talent development. Let me chat with somebody who does, sourcing. Let me chat with, outplacement. Recruiters are very in the world of essentially career coaching, job coaching, outplacement. There's a lot of ways that your skills and knowledge could be very, very relevant. Internal mobility, even performance management. There's a lot that could be very relevant, but it's a combination of knowing yourself, reflecting on things that were interesting to you. Do you ever remember trying to notice or get involved or shadow other projects that were going on at your previous companies and what was intriguing to you? And throw some darts at the wall and come up with a short list of options, and just know that those options aren't the end all be all, but start having a few calls. If you host the calls from an honest place, share what you think you're interested in, and they're going to share more about what they know about their entire department. They can give you a broad overview. They don't have to just talk about their role. And then by the end of the call, you're going to follow up and dig deeper into the things that sound cool. By the end of the call, you're going to say, oh, I've got these 2 or 3 things I really want to look more into. So you got to show up honestly, but it's okay to start with just some rough ideas and rough options. Okay. I hope that makes sense. Is your assessment on your site just for HR? No, our assessment is really, really open-ended. So if you just want to get to know who you are and what you're all about, we start from zero, because you deserve to think really broadly before you narrow yourself in, and you don't know where your transferable skills could be applicable. So we start really big and really broad, and then we say, where should we go next? Do you feel certifications and letters of licenses you've earned really help when looking in the job field, or is it all about networking? So great question. I have a few events coming up where I'm talking a lot about upskilling, but really you have to ask hiring managers and interviewers of the role that you're going after. And you've got to ask questions like, what do you value? What do you look for on a resume? Is it more hands-on experiences, or is it like certifications? Or you want to ask that same question to probably like 3 to 5 different people at different companies, and you want to notice if there's a pattern, right? So for me, ICF certification, like I would want to go ask people, how much do you value that? Or do you value that? Or what do you look for? And they're going to tell you, they're going to be like, yeah, it's a nice to have, it's a bonus. Or they're going to be like, we rule out every resume for this certification. Or it could be educational background. Maybe they look for people from a consulting background or whatever. Like, who knows what they're going to say? But asking those questions, and that list of networking questions that I do have, it has a subsection of like, how do you break in, and what does this person look for and value on a candidate, right? Whether it's on a resume or in an interview. So if you're debating any upskilling, networking is your answer to know what is worth your time and money. Don't just jump into a certification. Really ask what they want to see, because you could get involved with pro bono or volunteering or freelancing or consulting, or you could get some side projects going where maybe they value more hands-on experience versus a formal training, or vice versa. So asking people, okay? How long do you think you can have a gap on a resume before showing work experience again? When do you have to take a job so the gap is not too long? I think in today's day and age, the gap is becoming more forgiven and understood. I honestly think the only time you should decide to settle is more about your own personal, like, financial runway. If it's more of protecting your resume, I probably wouldn't just like settle. But sometimes it's just hard to make that decision. And if you're not sure whether you should take a job, I do have some blogs on that. But also, like, have another pair of eyes and ears if it's a mentor, a peer, a coach, whoever, because sometimes you're like, I don't know, like, is this a 7 out of 10? Is this an 8 out of 10? Or is this a 5 out of 10? Or is this a 3 out of 10? We don't want you to be in a bad job or a bad situation. And sometimes saying no is the best thing you can do. So have another pair of eyes and ears, and think about also, like, how much have you been searching? Like, yes, how tough is the market out there, but also, like, how good is this opportunity? You kind of have to weigh all the things to know, is this a yes for me, or is this a no? And also, how's this company culture? Could I move around and have stretch opportunities? Like, there might be reasons you take something knowing that it could grow and evolve and you really enjoy the environment, or there's any number of reasons. So you really have to look holistically when you're making a decision about an opportunity. I'm going to keep going until we're like down to the wire here. So Ashley, just stop me if you want to.
Cool. We've got about 6 minutes left. And of course, you're welcome to go as long as you have time or want to, but I know you probably have many other job webinars, right? After
yes,
that.
I'll stick around for those 6 minutes.
Okay, cool.
So let's see. I have 2.5 years of a gap. Now I don't know where I should start. I feel like I forgot everything I've done. Just know you totally can get back out there. There are so many people that do it, and finding support. Honestly, I would say that's the number one thing, whether it's a peer, a mentor, a coach, whoever it may be, or resources, structure, tools, guidance, a process, whatever's going to help you feel more comfortable to get back in the swing of things, and just take baby steps. You don't have to trust that you're going to figure it all out on your own. There's so many people and so many resources to support you. So if you've been out for a while, that would be my number one thing, is find support, whether it's community, resources, guidance. That would be my step number one. And that way you feel better, because it's manageable, but it only feels manageable if you're not like, I'm all on my own, and you're not all on your own, right? So find those support communities out there. What is your suggestion on how to get a mentor? How do you reach out to someone and see if they're open for that? That's a great question. So I actually wrote a post recently on LinkedIn about this, but you want to ask yourself, what are you looking for in that mentor? How often do you think you want to meet? What type of person should that be? What level, what tenure, what background? And then honestly, using your network, I think asking around, getting some introductions. You might want to look at past colleagues. Maybe there was someone who was a few roles ahead of you. Where are they now? Was there somebody you admired? So you want to ask yourself, like, what do you want out of that mentorship? And then how can you find people? I think structuring it helps. So letting them know, like, here's what I'm looking for. I'd love to meet, for once a month for 6 months. Here are my goals. Do you have any mentees at this time? Do you have capacity? Would you be open to that? I'd really value your support. I don't foresee much lift in between our calls. Like, let them know the capacity and the ask of what it is for them. And just really know what you want out of it. And then just brainstorming who might fit the bill, right? That's the quick answer. I'm sure there's more we could talk about with mentorship. I hope that all makes sense. I do see some more questions.
I
There-
think
yes.
I left some of the longer ones
Oh.
up there because I wasn't sure if you, just in case you covered some of that information in other questions.
Yes, it's possible. I haven't been able to read through the long ones just yet, but I can try to maybe get to one in our last few minutes. How's that?
Okay, yeah. And if you need any help with that, I'm happy to read for you.
Yeah. And just if we didn't get to your question, like, please find me, email me, LinkedIn message me. We always offer a free initial one-on-one chat for 20 minutes. So that's a little bit easier because I see some of those longer questions. So I just want to be able to get to as much as I can today. So feel free to please find me outside of this, and I'm happy to answer those. Okay. All right. Let's see. What do you do when you're wanting to leave a company after 10 years, but you get your overqualified response? So if you're getting that overqualified response, I think it means you need to look for roles more at your level that are commensurate with your level. Finding roles that are a little more senior is not always as easy because maybe they're not as prevalent or available. But again, it's networking. Sometimes, if it's like one click below where you're supposed to be, like, maybe we can get away with it, but people want to make sure you're in the right fit role at a right level where you're motivated. So I think that's the classic conundrum. Like, I'm overqualified. Why wouldn't they take me? But people need to see that you're at the right level of experience for the role. Like, if you're overqualified, there are reasons that they may feel it's a risk. Like, are you going to be bored? Are you going to leave this job ASAP? Things like that. So looking at or around your level is really what you want to do. I know that can be harder for more senior roles. What do you recommend to go at a lower level role to get a foot in the door and then try to grow? I mean, just similar to the question that I just answered, maybe one click lower, but you'd really have to get creative with your resume. If you're overqualified, you could maybe just put, years and not months, or, there's ways of making the dates and the tenure not as stand out as much, but I wouldn't go lower than one click below your actual level. Again, people want to see that you're a click for the role, that you're commensurate with the role, that you're going to be motivated by the role. So, sometimes it's tough because different orgs look at a role title different ways based on how much experience they're looking for. So there's some wiggle room, but I wouldn't go so far outside, because then you're going to see exactly what you're seeing, which is you're overqualified, right? You want to look for things that are commensurate, and you want to do better to go find where those opportunities are. Cool. We have a minute left. I don't know, Ashley, if you want to close with anything or not.
Yes, absolutely. And I'm trying to see, I don't think we have any more questions coming in. I know we have a couple left, so I can send those over to you, Rachel, afterwards. And of course, if anyone has any additional questions, as long as you're open, Rachel, we'll send those over to you as well. So, no, I just thank you very much. This was really, really informative. And y'all let us know if you want to see more job search information, and of course, Rachel, you're welcome back anytime. We really appreciated this.
Yeah, amazing. Let's do it. And hopefully I will see you all somewhere. Find me on LinkedIn, email me, our website. You can reach us on socials. We're usually at Get Woken or at Woken, but on our website, iamwoken.com, we have a bunch of free resources. So please reach out if I can help. And hopefully we'll be back here with Recruiting Daily.
Yes, we'd love to have you back. Thanks. And just a reminder, everyone, you'll receive the recording and slides and any other handouts that we have for you in about 1 to 2 days. So thank you so much, Rachel.
Bye, guys.
Everyone have a wonderful day and see you again soon. Thanks, Rachel. Bye.